Hello and happy Wednesday. Today we are welcoming recently married bride Katie onto the Busy Bride podcast. Katie got married a little more than 2 months ago, so her advice is pretty darn fresh. She and her husband got married at a gorgeous, almost Spanish style outdoor venue near Katie's parents in Austin, Texas, even though Katie and Trent live in Pennsylvania. They incorporated some unique things into their wedding day, including a jazz band for their reception, and I was a bridesmaid, so I had a much different perspective than I usually do. I can't wait for you to hear more. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Busy Bride podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Marie, and I created this podcast to help you research vendors and learn valuable advice as you plan the most special and true to you wedding day of your dreams. Let's get started. Hello, Katie. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course. So, to start off, you are a bride. You recently got married. Why don't you introduce yourself? I'm talking like name, where are you based, where'd you get married? Fun fact.
Sure. I'm Katie.
As I said.
I'm based out of Kennett Square, but we got married in Austin. Fun fact about me, I went skydiving twice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Twice.
It was so good I had to go back.
I knew you went skydiving in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go twice in Europe?
No, I went once there and then I went with a friend in Virginia.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was good.
Daredevil. That's awesome. Okay, so you recently got married, and I was in your wedding. I was a bridesmaid, and it was so much fun. I loved it. It was amazing. And it was cool because it was in Texas, even though you live in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about that? So you got married in Texas. What was that like, living so far away?
I feel like it wasn't too bad. Like, it was very easy to still get in touch with everybody. Like, all of the meetings were virtual, which wasn't, that was like my preference anyway with like work and all that. And I felt like I had to book everything pretty quickly. Maybe that was just me, but I visited like 3 times throughout the year, which was kind of like planned visits anyway. But it didn't seem too bad.
Good. And when did you get engaged?
We got engaged at the end of December of 2022.
And when did you get married?
December 17th, 2023.
So you were engaged for a year.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel with wedding planning, with wanting to be married? How was that length?
I feel like it was a good length. Part of me wanted it shorter, but I feel like that was just like looking at my parents, who I think had a pretty quick turnaround. But I really enjoyed that length. I feel like it gave me enough time to just like, after booking everything, I had a time to just relax, not make any decisions, think about what I wanted. And it honestly worked out because I was thinking like I wanted a dark burgundy sort of color. And like I kept looking at pictures and then I was like, no, I don't want that. And then it changed. So like the vision changed over the couple months, and I'm glad it did. So
yeah, your wedding was really, really pretty. It ended up being like different shades of like terracotta, like red, some lighter reds, some darker reds, and then lots of green as well. So
yes.
Like slightly leaning towards Christmas without being in your face Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the colors were very nice together. So I liked the way that flowed.
Yeah, I really liked the idea of having different dress colors, but I wasn't sure how to incorporate it until I started thinking more about like, no, I don't really want burgundy. So like, how can we do multiple colors?
And It looked really well, the different like shades of, what would you call the different shades?
Oh, like a dusty rose?
Yes. Okay, dusty rose.
Yours was like the terracotta.
Yes.
And then Lauren's was the burgundy.
It was like a deep
yes.
color.
But like on the more reddish side than the purple side, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did a really good job describing the exact colors you wanted to. Like, it wasn't like, oh, go out and get the color red in different shades. You were like, for me at least, you said, okay, terracotta, but a red terracotta, not an orange terracotta, because they're the different types of like
Hmm.
specific colors. So that was really helpful, and it turned out well on the wedding day too. So
I got a lot of samples from bridesmaid dress places. So I like bought a lot of those and then was comparing a lot of those, which was super helpful because I was like, oh, that's what it looks like in the light and all that. So that also helped.
nice. That's awesome. So you said you booked a lot of vendors like up front, very early on in the planning process,
Hmm.
and then had some time to chill. What were like the first vendors that you booked?
We found the photographer first. I think we waited to book him obviously until the venue had been booked, but we found the photographer first, and then the venue. Um, I feel like flowers coordinator were pretty close after that.
Okay. And how did you find your vendors since you live across the country?
Well, I was looking at so many venues, and I was like looking at their websites, looking at their social media. I looked at a lot of their tagged things, scrolling through to like find things, like find colors that were similar to what we wanted, or find um, just like a kind of vibe, or like the yeah what we were looking for. Um, and that's how we found pretty much all of the vendors.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So the social and website of the venue.
Yes.
And that was cool too, because then you can see what the pictures looked like at that venue, what the
Hmm.
flowers looked like at that venue, and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
So describe like the vibe of the wedding day, what you had in mind going in. We talked about the colors, but like
Hmm.
if you have any adjectives or descriptors, just
Yeah.
describe the idea you had going in.
I think romantic and classic and elegant were like the main descriptors. I did take like a quiz. I think there was like one on the knot or something. Um, and you could like pick different pictures and then it told you like what your vibe was. And that was the one it came out with. It was like classic or elegant with a touch of luxury, I
Ooh,
think is what it said.
that's really cool.
So I kind of rolled with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I think gives you an idea too of like how to find your vendors as well.
Yeah. It,
Um,
it helped with that too.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then, so that was your idea for the day. Day of the wedding, is that what it felt like?
I'd say yes. Yes. Yeah, I think the band helped with that a lot. But I feel like after booking the venue and getting my dress, like the rest of the details were kind of intentionally made to match that. Yeah.
Yes, I can totally see that. Your dress was very princessy.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. It was like strapless, and then the bottom part like poofed out like a gown. But it was just very. It was very elegant and classic and romantic. So it hit all of those like
Yes.
descriptor words too. And I feel like the type of dress you had with your venue could dictate like which style your wedding was. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Because with your venue, why don't you describe it? Like there was lots of
Mm.
stonework,
Yes.
but not Pennsylvania gray stone. It was southern,
Yeah.
like tan, sandy
Yes.
stone.
Lots of tans. It
Yes.
is hard to describe.
Mm-hmm.
There were like it's interesting because the venue definitely is better in person. Like in the pictures, I was like unsure of how it would be. There was like the chapel is yellow. I was like, oh, I don't know about yellow, but it looks so good in person. There's like a huge lawn to take pictures on. It's very Texas Hill Country, which is kind of a vague descriptor, but you kind of just like know it when you see it. Kind of short trees, like you can kind of see out onto the horizon. Um, but yeah, lots of kind of stone, like the terracotta almost colors and dark wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really, really pretty.
Hmm.
I loved it. Um, okay, so it felt like your vision going in. So that was great.
Yeah.
And you kind of used your venue style and your dress style to design the rest of the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. What was something that you loved about your wedding day? Like, what went super well? You look back, you're like, wow, that was incredible, and I'm so glad either I did that or that happened.
I liked that we did a first look. I really liked the vows part. The whole ceremony felt like 5 minutes. Like I kept asking people afterwards. I was like, "How long was that?" It was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? And they're like, "No, it was like 30 minutes." I was like, "No, it felt like it was so short." Um, but that was like really meaningful, just to have the I don't know. The vows were really meaningful.
And you wrote your own vows, both you
We
and your
did.
husband.
Yes, that was important to us. It was really funny though because we were writing them, and then I was like, "How long are yours?" It's like, "Oh, they're like a minute." I was like, "Oh my gosh, mine are like 3 minutes." And so we kind of he added some, I took some away, and then I ended up rewriting them on the morning because I didn't like how they sounded. So I think they ended up more sounding like me after rewriting them.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's easy to get in your head with writing wedding vows that you know other people are going to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might want to sound like more official or I don't know, well spoken.
Yeah.
But I loved your vows. They
Thank
felt so
you.
personal. There are some anecdotes in there, and you both touched on like specific things you loved about each other and your
Mhm.
relationship and what you're excited for in the future.
Yeah.
It was really, really sweet to listen to, and you were both tearing up, which was really
Yeah.
cute too.
Oh my gosh.
I loved that.
It
It
was
was
good.
awesome. Those are amazing parts. Um, you also talked about how the jazz band that you had
Yes.
really added to like the vibe of the day that you were going for.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk more about why you chose a jazz band for your wedding?
I feel like there are a lot of reasons. I've always really liked the idea of just like going to a jazz club or just like listening to jazz music. So we were originally not thinking about having a band at all. We were just like, well, we'll just do the iPod. And after like a bit of thinking, we are like, no, 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 no. We should definitely do a band. I just looked up. I think I looked up live jazz, top jazz bands in Austin or something. They were like the first result or second result. I listened to a lot of their music on their website, and then um, they were just they were really perfect. I think my dad also was a tenor sax in I think in high school or college or both, but I also wanted saxophone, so I just like I felt really good about booking them and talking to the guy. Um, I kind of heard them like practicing and warming up when I was getting ready, and I was like super excited. And then they were really good. Um, I feel like it was very true to us.
The wedding day in general too. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it felt like you made sure to design the day to reflect your relationship and what you like personally,
Hmm.
and you highlighted things that were important to you on the day of as well.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, jazz band was definitely a very cool touch.
It was like one of my favorite parts. Yeah.
That's awesome. You also had an early wedding. um,
Yes, yes.
did you like having a wedding earlier in the day?
Let's see. I think so. Yes. So it was at noon. I liked I liked. It was difficult trying to plan the hair and makeup because a lot of people were saying you need to leave, like, definitely leave a lot of time for that. Um, so it was like a little bit tight with that and wanting to do a first look. Um, and it didn't really leave us much time to do couple photos beforehand, which ended up being totally fine. But just like the timeline felt a little rushed at times. Um, but I think it worked out, especially because it was in the winter. So it started getting like a little dark anyway, and I think it was like a good time for everything. It left us some time to like go to a hotel afterwards.
What time
I
did it
just
end?
It ended at 4.
So 12 o'clock ceremony lasted like half an hour ish. And then reception ended at 4.
Yes. Yep.
So it was very much a daytime wedding.
Yes. Yeah.
I do agree. It was cool to leave the wedding and still be able to go out to dinner and go out to the bars later, but have some time to, like, if you wanted to change or, fix your hair differently, just take a nap. That was a cool, like, very unique part to the wedding day, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. Did anything stand out to you on your wedding day that you didn't think would stand out or you didn't think you'd notice? Like anything that kind of surprised you, like, wow, that was actually made a big impact.
I think two things. I did a hair and makeup trial and then had kind of decided on this look. And then the lead makeup artist actually needed to, was sick. So they sent a new person. And they have a similar style, but I feel like it looked different looking back on it. And so I wasn't expecting that, I think. Like, I kind of wish I had done a different hair and makeup.
In what way? Like, what about it made you wish you had done something different? And, like, what was the different thing you wanted to do?
I felt like the makeup didn't look like me. There was like something about it that didn't like quite feel like me. And then I liked the hair, but then the ceremony was outside, and it was like a little windier than I thought. So the whole time I was just kind of adjusting my hair
because you had some strands down the side of your face.
Yeah.
Did the strands like fit behind your ear? Like, were you able to tuck them behind?
They cut them like right before, like as they were doing.
Oh my gosh!
I know. So she's like, "No, this will be good," and I was like, "Okay, it's fine." But yeah, it didn't really fit.
Yes.
So
that I have actually noticed that at a lot of outdoor weddings I've photographed, when there are strands hanging down inside of your face, if there's any wind at all, which there oftentimes is just at least a little bit of wind, it can blow the strands around, and kind of like mess with your hair.
Yep.
I don't think anybody would have really noticed looking at you that you were like messing with them, because they're focused on the gorgeous vows and how beautiful you looked and how amazing the ceremony was. But that is something to keep in mind for other brides too. Like if you're getting married outside, like maybe make sure your hair is just like fully in place.
Right.
So that's just like an added worry that is just not even there.
Yeah, exactly. But I did change it afterwards. So like it was a flexible enough hairstyle that I could just put it down afterwards, which I liked.
So what was it first, and then what did you change it to?
I did a low bun with like the tendrils, and then I switched it to having kind of little small pieces pinned up on either side, but then down.
So you went up and then down.
Yes.
It looked so good when you walked into the reception and your hair was down. It was like, you see it, dress changes and shoe changes, but you don't often see hair changes. So that was a nice surprise for everybody, and it looked really pretty with your dress too. So I guess it's cool to be able to try out different hairstyles with the same dress on the same day.
Yeah, I liked that.
That's awesome.
The other thing that I was going to mention that I wasn't expecting, I guess, the first look. So I was super excited about that. But as we were minutes away from it, getting ready, like they're doing the last touch-ups to the makeup, and then somebody like, well, he's outside, and I just like started freaking out. I didn't expect that because I was thinking this was going to be a very like relaxing moment, like it's just us, kind of getting the nerves out. But I didn't really know what that meant until like being in the moment, because then I feel like it hit me then. Like that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting married. This is going to be my husband. I'm gonna finally see him like in the tux and all ready. So I wasn't expecting that. It was very overwhelming. I started crying a lot, and I thought he was gonna cry. I was waiting for that, but I was crying. So
all good, happy tears.
Yeah. Yes.
So is that what was going through your head when you were kind of hit with that emotion? Just the reality of all of it?
I think so. Yeah.
And then how did that change once you saw him for the first look? Like you were overwhelmed beforehand, but then once the first look happened, what changed then? Or did anything change? Did you still feel like, wow, this is it?
No, then I was just like, oh, okay, we're here, we're doing this, we're both excited, we're just dressed up, and I mean, he's like such a calming presence to me, so I was just like, okay, all the nerves are gone. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I'm glad you're able to do that.
yeah.
Moving on to, I guess, the vendors on your wedding day. Was there a certain vendor that had a big impact on your wedding day? And if so, like, what was that impact?
I'm gonna go back to the jazz band. I think they had a big impact. I emailed back and forth with the guy, and he asked me so many good questions that I hadn't thought about. So I appreciated that a lot. He was like, do you want a different song while you walk down the aisle versus the wedding party, and what about the reception? And I can also do a little bit of MC, and would you like me to sing? Would you like some Christmas songs? So like a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought about, that I'm glad he asked about and incorporated. Like he was so easy to work with. um, and yeah, like everyone was talking about like how good the band was. I feel like they brought a really good energy. They were super into the music, and I love that.
They really were. You could tell that band loved playing jazz. They were super passionate about what they did, and that just always elevates the experience of any wedding vendor you hire. Like, if they love what they do and they're really passionate about it, they're going to do a really good job, and it's going to make an impact on the wedding day and all the guests, too.
Yeah.
It was a very good takeaway for the guests, as one myself. Okay. And when you were researching and hiring your vendors, you said you mainly looked at the Instagram page and just like the website for the venue that you booked, and basically found them through the tagged posts. What was that process like? Did it take a lot of time to comb through all of the posts to find them? Like, what was it like? Like vetting your vendors, meeting with them. What was the whole process like?
It did take a long time. I was definitely getting stressed about the venues because there were so many to choose from. And then I guess visiting them in person like solidified it, but just parsing it down to like ones that I wanted to visit was very difficult, I feel like.
And how did you choose the one that you wanted?
Um it was literally just when we got there I felt it. And
the vibes were right.
Yes. I was like waiting for that at all the other ones. Some of them I really liked some of them. I was like, you know what, I could see it here. But as soon as we got to our venue, we were like, yeah, this is it. Like I could definitely see the wedding here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And with researching the other vendors, it was all online, so it was okay that you were out of state.
Yeah, I feel like those were. It definitely took some time again to like comb through all the tags and all of that, but it wasn't as time consuming as the vendor, the venue. But trying to think. I think finding an efficient was a little bit difficult because we really wanted somebody that, that we vibed with. And so we did a lot of interviews then, and I was also kind of like getting nervous, like, what if we don't, find someone? But then we talked to somebody, and it felt right. So I feel like that was just kind of what we went with. Like, it feels right.
Yes, you trusted your gut instinct.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was the most either time consuming or overwhelming part of wedding planning? Was it the beginning part, researching all the vendors? Was it the last like month or two finalizing all the details?
I think it was a lot of time in the beginning, like I just mentioned, with just finding the venue. But then I was super overwhelmed in the couple of weeks leading up to it because there were a lot of decisions that needed to be made that I hadn't made before. I was like kind of putting them off. It was like, when do you want this to start? Or do you want like, it was just like small little details, especially like decorations. like personal decor, we kind of decided on that at the last minute. Like, oh wait, we do want a photo book, but we need all the supplies. We need to like order the photo book. We need to get all the film for the camera. Oh, and we need like pins for people to sign, or like table numbers, things like that. Kind of felt like we were rushing around to get those pulled together in the last couple of weeks because I hadn't actually thought about what I wanted the tables to look like before then, which
Yeah.
is funny. Yeah.
It's because there's so many decisions you make
Mm-hmm.
about your wedding. There's so many different parts to the day. There's the pre-wedding lodging for everybody since it was an out of
Yeah.
state.
Yep.
There was the getting ready, the first look, the ceremony, the pictures during cocktail hour, the reception with the jazz band, what you were doing afterwards since it was an early wedding. And so little details like that, it can be easy to just not
Yes.
even think about them because you're
Mm-hmm.
making so many decisions.
Yes.
Would you
Yes.
have any tips when it comes to like those little decisions the last couple months? Like, would you would have done anything differently? Maybe.
Mm, I I would have delegated more, maybe. Um, I mean, it was hard for me to not want to do everything myself. Um, but delegating could have been helpful. Or like I really started looking at pictures of reception tables in the last couple weeks. And that's how I decided I wanted like this or that. I think looking at that earlier, because I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, oh, like I know what plates we're having and all of that, so I wasn't even thinking about like decor. Um, Thinking about that earlier would have been nice. Like having it on some checklist or just yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, everything turned out beautifully. So your stress and overwhelm was very much unseen by
Yeah.
everybody. Like it was gorgeous. The table settings were really pretty, and everything felt very cohesive. So it turned out great. I feel like it always does in my experience as a wedding
Mm-hmm.
photographer. Like you never show up to a wedding and you're like, I wonder where they decided to do these tabletop settings. Like nobody ever thinks about that. It's really only like something you experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the result was great, but I do understand wanting to maybe have delegated more,
Mm-hmm.
especially with little decisions that don't have as big of an impact on the day itself.
Yes.
Because you're seated at the sweetheart table, so you don't really see
Right.
the table decorations.
And honestly, I didn't even see them the day of that much. Like I tried to remember to like stop and look at them, but I really like had to rely on some pictures people had taken to know what they looked like.
Totally understandable because you're focused on your first dance, you're
Mm-hmm.
focused on the toast, cutting the cake, like the jazz. Like there's so many other things going on in your
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Biggest question to end. What is your biggest piece of wedding advice for people who are starting to plan their weddings or just wedding day advice in general?
Hmm. I think trusting your gut when booking your vendors is important. Um, like I got a very good feeling from all of the ones that we talked to. Um, so that was important. Um, I would suggest a first look because that was very helpful in getting rid of a lot of my nerves, which I didn't realize I had before the ceremony. And then just stopping to enjoy the day. I felt like we spent a lot of time talking to the guests, which I really enjoyed. Like I loved being able to go around and talk to everyone because we didn't really get to, you know, do that during the ceremony or anything. So, um, but I felt like I got kind of caught up in that, and then it was over, and then I wished it was longer. So, just kind of being more present in the moment because it was easy to get caught up in like all of it.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a very great piece of advice. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say to brides planning their wedding right now?
Well, congratulations on getting engaged. But no, I guess good luck on all the planning, and Gabriella has some good advice for you. So
So do you. You had some great advice.
thank you.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show. It was lovely to have you,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited for you to be a married woman.
Thank you for having me.
That was so much fun. I loved recapping Katie's wedding with her, which I honestly very much recommend you do. Like, just set aside time to go over the wedding with your married friends because they probably have a lot to tell you. And if you loved this episode or you found any advice helpful, please give this podcast a follow so you don't miss any new episodes. You can get all of the advice that's coming your way. And also, please share this episode with anybody you know who's planning their wedding right now. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Now go hug your person. I'll see you next Wednesday.